Alright, so next step, make sure your engine's off, elevated if your car is low. I don't have a jack stand or jack, so I'm going Paisa and one with the ramps. Next, you're going to want to locate your engine oil cap. Go ahead and take that off and set it on a paper towel or on the floor. Step is to locate your engine oil dipstick, which mine is located right here. You're gonna want to take that out and definitely set that on a paper towel. So I'm under the car, and the reason why you take out the oil cap and oil dipstick is because some of the dirty oil still resides in there if they were left on. So when you're under the car, you're gonna see the oil pan right here, and you're going to get a socket and wrench and take off this nut right there to drain the oil. Okay, so here we are. I have a 5/8 of an inch socket. It really depends on your car what size socket you're gonna need, but for mine it's 5/8 of an inch. So make sure you have a oil pan ready to catch any oil and start loosening this nut with your socket and wrench. Okay, so I went ahead and loosened it. Just be careful when you do so, because you can probably get oil on your hand, or if you do take out this nut, be ready with the pan, because this thing will shoot as far back as it wants and really doesn't have any mercy for anyone. So be ready with that pan. I'm letting it drain just for a little bit because I like to relieve some pressure, and then once it starts dripping, I'll go ahead and take out that so right now I have it and I'm about to let it rip. Alright, so there it is, that dirty oil. That is black. That is definitely black. Yeah, that needed to be changed a long time ago. Depending on your car, your oil pan nut might have a magnet on the back, so go ahead and just get a paper towel and just kind of wipe those metal shavings off. Alright, so I'm just gonna let that drip out. What I usually do is, with that new engine oil, I'll go ahead and pour a little bit in the engine oil cap. So where my cap usually resides, I'm gonna put a funnel right here, pour in some new engine oil, and just kind of let that drain out and pick up any of the dirty oil that might have been left over. And when I'm satisfied, I'll go ahead and put the nut back on. Sorry about that. Put the nut back on, and then fill the engine up with the new oil. Second part of the engine oil change, we're going to be changing the oil filter. That's this black and gold part right here. If you do not know what this part is, I recommend you stay tuned. Okay, so what I'm going to do is put the nut back on. Just hand tighten it. You don't need to tighten it down or anything with the socket and wrench. It's fine like this. Then I'm going to move this oil pan over under this part, because oil will come out of this. Let me get this tool. This is a oil filter remover tool. So you still don't know what I'm talking about. It is this part. If I can get this stupid thing in there. It's this part that I'm hitting right here. I don't know if you can see it there, right? What I'm doing is just taking it out by hand and loosening it till it just comes right out. Alright, so if you're worried about the drippage, I can give you a kind of rough estimate of where the spill is usually going to be. Just depends on your car. So there's the opening for the oil filter. I don't think you can see it. Let me try to get up in there. Let me see. right there. That's the opening for the oil filter, and it came right here. So that's where the oil dripped, and I had the oil pan right there ready. So with your new oil filter part, you're gonna take it out, and this is how it's gonna come. You're gonna take off this plastic. Do not take off this O-ring. I'm gonna show you, I'm gonna get to that in a minute. With your new engine oil, you're gonna pour just a little bit into the cap. So you're gonna take off the cap, pour some in. In the cap, you're gonna take your finger and dab a little bit of oil on your finger, on a clean finger, not these hands. And then you're gonna rub it around the O-ring. So when you're going to install it, the O-ring doesn't just crinkle up. It'll just be smooth and lubricated. So it's important that the O-ring stays on, okay? And once the O-ring is lubricated, just pour a tiny bit of oil into the center of the oil filter. And then so once your new oil filter is all ready to go ahead and install it. Okay, once your oil filter is installed, go ahead and wipe off any excess dirt or grime that's on there. Just keep it clean. You don't have to, but when you're installing this, I recommend just hand tightening it as tight as you can with your hand, because if you're ever in a situation where you don't have a tool, or you're in a tight space like me and you don't have any other way of getting it except with your hand, you're gonna have a tough time because you don't have the tool. So just hand tighten it. It will be fine, but just tighten it as tight as you need. Okay, now we're on to the fun part. Get your engine oil. Also, do double check that your oil pan nut is tight, and your oil filter is tight as well, because after we put the oil in, we're gonna let it run for a bit. So make sure that everything's tight, there's no leaks, nothing. All right, so what I mean by tight is you're gonna get your socket and wrench, put it on the oil pan nut, and if you can't go anymore, I'm actually putting a lot of strength into it. If you can't go anymore, just stop, because if you strip these threads on the oil pan nut, all of your oil is just gonna seep out slowly, or depends how bad you strip those threads. But just tighten it as far as you can go, and you should be good, because otherwise you're just going to waste all that brand new oil that you put in your engine. So what you're going to do next is pour water. You're actually going to pour engine oil, just kidding. This is about right here, it's 5 quarts. This is 5W20 grade motor oil. My truck takes 4.5 quarts, so we're only going to pour 4.5 in here. So when you're doing this, just be very wary of how you're pouring. Don't pour super fast, because if you do, you're going to get engine oil all over, and it is a bee to clean. So just be careful. Pour it in there. All right, it's on level ground. I left 1/2 quart because I only needed 4.5 out of the 5. Once you're done, I recommend leaving the funnel there for about maybe 2 or 3 minutes. Let all of the oil just kind of go in. Then after that, you're going to put your oil cap back on. So once you're done, just go ahead and wipe down everything. Any oil that was left, just go ahead and wipe that down. Close the hood, and let's get in. So we're in the car. Put it in neutral. Turn on the ignition and start the car. I'm gonna back it off of the ramps and let it sit for a bit. Emergency brake is off. So we're on level ground. Engine oil is reading right in the middle, so that's good. We're just gonna let it run for about 5 minutes and we should be good.